Okay. Okay, I guess we'll get going at this point. I think you all know Rita was not able to really make it tonight in Chiefs away. Yeah, so if I would fill in once more. So I will open this October 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Immense Beer Library Reuse Committee. We have an abbreviated agenda today. Mainly, we want to visit the Spear building. Okay, so we're leaving over there. We got one here because. Would like to just do a couple quick things here before we go. I'd like to move the meeting minutes actually rather than come back after our site visit. Thank you, Brennan, for sending them out so quickly. Meeting, and sometimes it's disorienting to get them so early, 2 weeks before next meeting. But anyway, I did we'll be able to find them again and do them. Oh, good. So thank you. At least I did bring us coffee some meetings to. So yeah. I had no comments on it. Did anyone else have any comments or corrections?
No, good. Make a motion on the minutes.
Okay. In a second, all in favor of approving the minutes from the October 2nd meeting? We do a roll call. Do we have to do a roll call or can that's what I mean just typically? I just said typically. I don't know how you get something to do with it. Okay, yeah, mostly I think they usually done like alphabetically, but I haven't figured. Yeah. So if we just, start with Henry and go around.
Goodness, aye.
Johnson, line.
No, it's not.
Mosher, aye.
Lions eye. Okay, thank you. And the other thing I want to do is just a quick follow-up before we head over to the library building on one of the discussions we had last time about the status of the building, whether it's on any historical registers. And I think Henry, you said you would.
Yes, indeed. It is on the Massachusetts Cultural Resources Index survey.
Survey. So that was, just been survey.
Let me finish. Thank you. Which means it's an honorary sort of thing. In fact, it's registered, state level, federal level. But the real issue with any historical structure is whether it's part of the historical district, local historical district. Has to go through the select board, has to go through town meeting. Hasn't been done yet. So the upshot being that any structure of this sort, there are no restrictions, no constraints at this point. However, from the point of view of historical commission, we want to try to maintain it as well as possible, as authentic as possible. Because according to the record, it is eligible for historical district consideration at some point. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but at this point, there's no state
No,
requirements.
no.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
So I went back in the minutes from our meeting, and at December of 2022, I requested the town's historic commission recognize that the MN Spear Library is a significant local historic resource. That's to make it eligible for funds, CP
Indeed.
funds.
And,
And it was recognized.
yes,
Should that be decided not to into pursuing getting a grant at that time.
Great,
we could do it, though.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, excellent. Well, that kind of, you know, gives us some good context. We're going over it and we're looking at some of the things that may need to be done. Yes,
Okay, so we're gonna go over there and because of open meeting law, I remember what you said. Can't be discussed. Can I, is it the lane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially what to do there.
right.
Okay, so should we go and then we'll just go from the exterior, section by section,
Mhm.
and if people questions they'll ask, or should I'll say 3 seconds.
Yeah, I had envisioned that. Yeah, you know, we kind of go over, especially the, you know, the things that look like they might be an issue
Yeah.
over there. And you can answer questions. I mean, you won't have any discussions or decision making. Then we will come back here and close the meeting and we could at that point have some discussion.
Yeah.
But I suspect that we have some time constraints today and I'm gonna ask you, Stephen, just how much time do you think you would need to kind of go through? Well, what we can.
Well, what I'll tell you is doing a complete inspection. At least 3 hours. Now, that's pulling some things apart. I'm not gonna try, I'm not gonna go up to the attic, talk about that. You know, maybe we can do this an hour. But I know there ain't much time involved. We could just see how much we get.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll have to, people feel like they're running short on time, just let me know. And then back over. Close the meeting. Okay, we do have access to a library. can I-
Yeah, let's go to the, Marianne just what, seeing some of that's true.
Yes, I just leave this wall, but I did make. I noticed.
See how we can angle this. As I said, can we?
Yeah.
It's hard to see this.
When it's backwards. That's fine, it's fast. For all us dyslexics,
Yeah.
Close.
It is that, it's back with the other. But.
Well, we can say that it was.
They get about an hour to figure it out. Okay. You are back. A really informative visit across the road. 11:30, great timing. So now that we're back formally here, is there any discussion or questions or anything people want to talk about?
Oh, you don't believe it. Tour.
Yeah. Yes, great. Susie, you had sent around information on record keeping, storage, right? A while ago, I did take a quick look at that, but since it wasn't on the agenda for today, and I figured we probably have a chance to talk about that, maybe even at the next meeting, I didn't spend too much time with it.
Right.
Um,
Actually, I checked in with Rita, because there's no record storage committee. And the town clerk to advocate for record storage. So, I would say that the survey, the report and the table of possibilities is what we have to go on. I asked Rita if I would be the person that could represent that information, but I do not want to take on that role of being a representative or advocate. And then I asked if I should fill out a survey for it. But I don't think so. I feel like the survey doesn't go to where that table of possibilities goes. But if people are in the same format as a survey, then I would do that, but.
Well, it does bring up an interesting question. I mean, I think individual committees and department heads, can certainly talk about any record storage needs that they have. But there's still a whole bunch of other record storage in the town that may fall through those cracks, no one is gonna represent them, as you say. So maybe, when Rita gets back, maybe we can have that discussion. Select board probably needs to little weigh in on something like that too. Because that may be, a space need that doesn't get reflected in all the surveys.
Absolutely does.
Yeah.
And so the town clerk normally would be representing some of that information. That's why the study initiated in the town clerk's office. And I think people to understand the storage needs of record storage, they would have to put that table. This report. So that would be part of figuring out what record storage. I also need to, because I really don't want this role, but I should find out what the current record retention laws are, because the select board is having these investigated to digitize stuff. But I'm pretty sure last time I knew, like 6 years ago, you still have to have the paper. You can't just have it on digital. If that's true, then we still have the same kind of thing that's reflected in the report. And it did not go, did not project this many years at this many linear feet with this much stuff. And so when we talk about it, I can help explain it, but I'm not. I will find out if we can substitute digital. That would make a huge. Have a big bonfire. So I'll find out about that.
Okay.
The record retention law.
We still have access to temporary town clerk. Clever.
Yes, yes, but it's really.
Probably know that.
So she's in on Thursday, she's in her. And then the assistant's in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 to 30.
We can just ask her.
Yeah, it could be. It's one of those big dark holes. We must start talking with the state. Rules, but they don't stay the same.
All right,
I'll just get a short answer and then we'll see.
okay, thanks. one thing I did notice at the end of the committee's report on the storage, record storage was. Statement about how town hall is like a, you know, a coherent group that should stay together in one place. So immediately I thought of, you know, the
Yeah.
departments that may say, oh, yeah, I was like, across the street. So,
Yeah, and that was, part of our research, but could be researched again, and when people are faced with different opportunities and different. They may see their relationships differently, but at that point, that's what was being seen, because we did have to go into people's offices and say, where are your records? Like,
right. Okay, anything else?
Just a quick information, I spoke with Marianne and she mentioned that again, just to confirm, talking about the bathroom, toilet, that it was inappropriately installed, so that, they weren't.
Send that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon was saying, your, the area that unit should have been on the floor. They built stairs
Hmm.
right up immediately under the floor.
Yeah, it should have been, like it said on the floor, there should have been a longer pipe that would have went down to the sewers at a holding tank or. Chips.
Anyway.
I did get, I just counted and lost count again, maybe 10 surveys back. How the information is presented is, probably I need someone to work with me on that, because I saved all the electronic ones, here's the paper ones, that's a pretty small group so far. And so we might talk about should give a nudge. I can let Brennan know who replied and then he can give a nudge to some. Some of them, like the town of Calvert, has a lot of records to store. So nudging, how to present the information, in a correct way. There's some are long narratives, the police printed up a full page to explain their understanding of what they need. Most other people just did comments, but the comments sort of don't fit into the way I will organize the spreadsheet, but I have all the information, so. We should decide if we're gonna nudge him.
What was the deadline? That one?
It was
24th.
It was Friday. '24th, so we would have it. Yeah, they're for the next meeting. If possible.
I had a question about that, the timeline for it. The timeline for the survey. And my thought was perhaps it's rather short. Get people to respond. So that might be another option, was to extend that deadline. If possible, I don't know.
I think sometimes a long deadline, people just not attend. It's really a fairly short survey.
It is.
So they may just need to know that we really want to buy and nudge them to do that now. Because it's not complicated. And actually, the police probably had the longest response and they've given it out there.
It was posted to public in general, I believe. And it was sent out to general, or no, just to the department. So
Each department, committees.
got it, okay,
and
yeah,
individuals.
I missed the first meeting. So.
Yeah. And only 3 of the, 4 of the, 3 of the responders so far said no, it wasn't sufficient in what they were, so then they explicate what that is. But most of the other people that did respond could say, yeah, it's not a problem. So I think a survey can start a process. It's usually not a be all and end all.
Yeah, well, I think a nudge is a good idea, meeting, it's a week from tomorrow, right, the deadline, so. Give them a nudge a week in advance, is that something that's easy for you to do?
Brenda, I just had.
I'll let you know who already responded. You can look off the list.
Right.
Send them to the same group we did.
Okay. And I only want to send them separately, because I'll send it as one big group email, because everyone's already received. What's in the date?
Yeah. Yeah, you could just start off saying, if you've already responded, just please ignore this, and then you don't have to pull off the actual name, so it's up to you. But okay, and then, I would say rather than extend it, the deadline now. We just mind thinking, why don't we just wait and see, what kind of response we get by next week?
Reevaluate.
And then, yeah. The only thing is, we won't be meeting again until the 30th, right? So if we wanted to extend it, we wouldn't have the opportunity to officially, make that recommendation or that decision.
The responses we get might tell us like what might have not worked in the survey for some people. I mean, I'm not sure that we just. I think we'll know what survey. Then we might have an idea of what to do next at that point.
Yeah, sometimes you don't realize how people interpret things
Yeah.
that seem so clear to you,
Right.
until you get.
Or it's an issue for us, it's not an issue for them, so
Right.
how do you make it an issue? Not just to a survey.
I'm just gonna make one comment from the perspective of the COA. That we did not have survey on our agenda. I'm not sure if that has to do with the timing of the meeting. But I'm wondering if that might have happened with other activities as well.
This is a meeting that already happened or not?
Yeah, I don't think that the COA is meeting until after the deadline.
But they already met.
Yeah, we've already met recently. We did not have it on our agenda. It wasn't on our radar and that's not my fault. I told them that we were meeting, but if an email went out, meaning the chair, it didn't make it to the agenda. So,
And maybe it doesn't have to be the whole committee that answers the survey, so I wonder if there's a way to prompt it to be that. The chair can just, I mean, I know that the chairs. And even then some, I got one that was from 3 committees, I know they did 3 committees, somebody that's on, who's looking at the issues like, oh, this. So I wonder if we could get that prompt.
It's a good idea, and targeting people that are really, insisting on the urgency of getting stuff sooner than later.
Yeah, I know the
I'm not sure how
FinCom.
you phrase that.
We get a lot of fish to fry that.
Because,
Part of it.
it goes in one ear and, oh, yeah, we've got a month to deal with this.
Yeah, well, as you just said, Susie, the survey is not the be all and end all, so. If the COA decides later, oh, we really want to have some input, then of course we're gonna.
I don't think I don't think it's mission essential. We're focused on straightening up the room over there, so. Just wondering if similar issues happen to the tree.
Okay, I thought there was something else that's gonna bring up, but anything else? Any members?
I was just wondering procedurally, as I was over there, I was noticing that especially with the heat, it wouldn't lend itself very well to being subdivided. It's a nice big space. And so, questions like that were beginning to occur kind of at the end of our visit. And I thought it might not be a bad idea to talk about what the possibilities, realistic possibilities for the space were before we started looking at what everybody wanted it for. So that, like, we have kind of like an objective group view of what the realistic possibilities are. And then, apart from what we might feel about it, if, everybody else's needs and wants and so on.
Well, to add to that, I did a little bit of looking into what are the requirements? Changes. And I think we need to probably talk to a professional architect, code knowledgeable or zoning knowledgeable person to see if it became police department or, you know, so do we need, can we get away with one functioning bathroom? You know, what part of the requirements you have to meet in order to go to this different use? That might have something to do with that gets used.
I think in particular, before you put something out to the public, it might be good to say these are things that are realistic and these things.
Oh, yeah, yeah, totally.
Just so that things don't go in a direction.
Right.
No.
Which is kind of how we organize the data for the record storage, is we listed all sorts of criteria. And then looked at the possibilities and said, this use, this space would meet these criteria, but not these. So we had yeses and nos. And it becomes very clear that, well, having gone to several towns, 3 towns, 4 towns, not everybody meets all the criteria ever. And so, but knowing what the criteria is, it's gonna actually probably be pretty, I mean, you could probably figure out a way to subdivide the heat, but you have to figure out the number of entrances and exits each space has access to. And then probably the bathroom, if it's some kind of fixed. Maybe if it's just a meeting space, probably you don't need that. Well, maybe you don't know.
Right.
If you do have a certain number of bathrooms.
Sometimes when I serve on kind of short-term committees, I find it helpful to kind of look ahead to, well, what's the product of our work going to be? You know, if we're gonna produce some kind of report, you know, what would that look like? You know, what's our thinking now? And I can imagine a report that says, you know, that has options, so it says, well, you know, if the space is gonna have to be used pretty much as is with, you know, some structural, you know, improvements that we feel are really necessary, that we might even be able to do in-house, you know. Then, you know, these are the realistic options. If we can put a bathroom in, you know, that expands the options, you know, makes it available for other uses. If we have unlimited funds and, you know, we get $1 million grant and we can do anything we want, you know, then, you know, anyone, you know, what does that open up? So, you know, maybe we could all be thinking along those lines, you know, for the. Maybe before the next meeting, we can kind of further discuss that.
There's a funding question, you know, could we get our CPA only go for the bathroom?
Right.
I don't know off the top of my head.
And the reason we made our report with a table of possibilities was because we weren't in charge of the final decision. Didn't want to be, we didn't even recommend, said, this is the information we know relative to these spaces. And people make move it forward, but we wanted the information out so that you didn't get people saying, well, it could be in the kitchen. Well, here's what the kitchen space worked out to be.
Right.
These are the yeses and nos for the kitchen. So we tried to make it information forward and then let people wrestle down the decision, which was never decided.
Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Which is a little bit the cost of that presentation. We aren't pushing. But
Yeah. Maybe also for next meeting, we could be thinking about what, you know, big questions are still floating out there that we really need to get handles on, you know. CPA funding, you know, can it cover a bathroom, for example? That's a good question, you know. You know, can we realistically change the heating system to be able to, you know, accommodate, you know, divided spaces? You know, are there any, you know, state regulations that, you know, really are going to affect who can use the space and what would have to be done to bring it up to code, you know, for those uses, those kinds of things. So I think that might be a helpful exercise. Think of those Remaining questions that we want to get answers to. Do we need an architect or an engineer to come in and really advise us and, you know, how much will that cost? Things like that.
So we're in a climate in which a lot of federal funding is being,
Frozen.
yeah, particularly community development type things. So
I don't know if we would be eligible for much federal funding since it's not on the, what's, you know, at least the federal register, but anyway, yeah, all good questions. I did remember, and I want to wrap up here about 5 minutes, but I did remember one question I wanted to follow up on was, does anyone else have maybe some experience in, you know, data management that, you know, might be able to work with Susie as we try to figure out how to present the survey results?
So
I'm interested.
when I look at the possible storage chart. I'm seeing now that I could do each of the across the top could be workspace and the thing that we put in the survey, asking them bathroom, blah, blah, blah. Then on the side can be the different responses. And B did not have a comment section, is that right? No, not in our chart.
Oh,
So, the way the survey was responded to, there were a lot of comments, but maybe I will go back and try to make columns this way. Just, did they talk about storage need? And I can put a Y for that part, and go back through and use the survey to create columns. I just had question 1, question 2, question 3, but people give their opinions on every question. And so then it's like, where do you put all those comments? And so it wasn't coming out very elegantly, but I can try this again. And then if I don't succeed, I can come back to you and say, somebody else needs to handle how to present this information, but I'll give it another shot.
okay. Great. Okay, anything else? Good, so next meeting, October 30th, 2 weeks from today, again at 10:30. Everybody looks.
And I'll send out whatever report I have generated at a time, so they can start looking at what it is. We're gonna give them another nudge, so there might be some more coming in.
Great. Okay, so. Motion to. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Make it official.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Close your eye. Lions eye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Then I have to take the thoroughness in this. I said, you know, last time, since I was making all the changes on the questionnaire, I was thinking, you know, again.
Yeah.
Wondered if you really needed to spend all that time, you know, going through all those individual changes.
Probably not. You know, I always come back with like, this meeting.